Stephen Mansfield, New York Times bestselling author and speaker.
Doug Tenaple, I'm the creator of Earthworm Jim.
Tweet groups.
I'm Victor Dweck.
Joseph Carter, I'm the Mink Man.
This is Dave Baker from Forged in Fire.
This is Leanne Morgan. I'm a comedian, and this is why you should never
Don't ever
Not ever.
Don't waste your time.
Oh, you really should.
listen to those darling, yummy Reverend and the Reprobate.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Reverend and the Reprobate. Normally we start off with laughter, but Danley did not take his Xanax today, and so we won't be. I am Lucas Pinkert. I am the Reverend. With me, as always, is my partner in crime and a man whose mother has been incarcerated once again because she was picked up off a traffic stop due to outstanding warrants. It's Danley Gibson.
Yep, she's doing okay. How's your mom doing with perimenopause?
She's going to shoot us. For mentioning that. I also don't know that that's the case for a myriad of reasons.
Of course
hey, everybody,
not.
welcome to the Reverend and the Reprobate.
No.
Today,
My mom is also not in prison.
Today on our show, we have Tiffany Vollmer, who is the voice of Bulma on Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball GT. She took her from age 16 to age 50. Throughout the course of the show, she
does
teacher.
a good Bart Simpson impression too.
She does do a great Bart Simpson impression. She's a teacher at Media Tech Institute, and she's got a new project called The Stranger that's making its rounds in the film festival circuit. She talks to us a little bit about each of those projects. Focuses on what it takes to be a voice actor. Talks a little bit about creating a character from start to finish on a run of one of the most iconic TV shows, and gives us a really interesting story about how she got into voice acting by breaking into her producer/director's house.
Yep.
I don't even know where to go from here.
I think we just started, other than if you want to support the show, go and hit the like button.
Yep, like, subscribe,
share it, and
ding the little bell so that you get notifications. Now on Facebook,
dingle that little bell.
Yeah, on Facebook you actually have to ding the bell now, or else you won't get notifications. So if you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, however that is, make sure that you do that. If you're following us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or Podchaser, make sure that you give us a review and rate us. It really helps out the show. Not only does it help us to pop up in other people's feeds, but it lets us know what stuff you guys are liking and not liking, or is meh about. And if you just put meh, then we'll know. Just keep doing what we're doing, and maybe
just
we'll get good at it
remember
one day.
Dingle bell.
Yeah, and if you do it and you hate it, then you can always undo it.
That's right.
There you go.
Tiffany Vollmer.
Danley, on our airwaves today. This is an interview that was pitched to us by our producer Colton, and when I first heard about it, I actually thought it was a joke, because I thought there was no way that Colton could get a guest of this caliber. It is the fabulously talented voice actress Tiffany Vollmer, who is the president of Women of Film, and many of you will know her as the voice of Bulma from Dragon Ball Z. I know that's where I'm most familiar with her from. Miss Tiffany, thank you so much for joining us on the show tonight.
My pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
So I've got so many questions about voice acting. We've had some incredible animators who have been on the show, and every one of them talks about how their characters have been brought to life by the voice actors in ways that they otherwise wouldn't have, and just the incredible talent that voice actors have. I want to know first what got you into voice acting, and then we've just got a ton of questions about what it's like to actually be a voice actor. So let's start there. What got you into voice acting?
I started performing at a really early age. I think it was just, one of those, my calling, not to be cliche, but I was a runway model at the age of 5, doing fashion shows on television in Southern California. And then my first line of a play, I'll never forget, I was in 2nd grade. I was new to the school, and one of the girls was sick that day, and they were doing Little Women, just a little school play, and I got to be the maid. And I think I had like one line. It was like, "Thank you, ma'am," or something like completely ridiculous. And then I just kind of had the bug, and I was recognized initially for vocal talent. I was always in choir and solos, and, leading the school play, like musical and honor choirs, all city choir, all that kind of stuff. So vocal voice has always been kind of the thing that I've been recognized for from a very early age.
Now, we've done a little research. We know you were a scholarship student at the University of North Texas. Were you there for vocal performance for your singing?
So I went to Stephen F. Austin for 2 years out of college because
Action
my
Jacks.
parents, Neck of Nowhere,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
my parents said that they weren't going to spend $30,000 to send me 45 minutes away. So they sent me 3 hours away. And that's where I learned how to live without grown-ups. And that's about all I learned there.
Good old Mac.
I'm kidding. I did very well there. I studied voice and I studied dance and I studied theater. And I loved it, but I was allergic to pine trees, conifers. And if you know anything about Nacogdoches, it's the piney woods.
I was about to say that. It's beautiful. But yes.
But not if you can't breathe.
Yes.
That's kind of the breathing's important.
Yeah.
So I left there. I actually got in a car accident as well, and I wasn't able to finish out my dance semester. So I finished up there. I came back to Dallas, and then I met a boy at the University of North Texas, and he had already graduated, actually. He was a musician. Imagine that. And I just decided to go enroll. And my mom said, "You're not going to study movie starism. You're not going to study this theater. You can, study journalism and be the next Jane Pauley, but we're not paying for you to go get a degree in acting." So I went and got a scholarship, and I did it anyway.
Atta girl.
Oh, wonderful.
So so you studied acting then at UNT?
Mm-hmm.
Very nice.
Was that because of your love of Audrey Hepburn?
A little bit.
Yeah.
She's pretty amazing. I mean, my mother, I was born in New York, actually, and my mother did name me Tiffany after the jewelry store, thinking that, well, if we name her Tiffany, then all of her baby silver people will buy for her will come from Tiffany and Company. And I did have a cat named Cat in college as well, which if you know anything about Holly Golightly, she had a cat named Cat. So,
well, what's your favorite Hepburn film?
I mean, Breakfast at Tiffany's, but
I guess it would have to be.
American in Paris is pretty amazing too. Yep. And I don't know. I like them all. She can do no wrong. Not only that, but in her real life, she was a philanthropist and she was just an amazing human being. And so for me, the actors that I admire the most, her and Carol Burnett being the two most prominent in my life, just do amazing things outside of just being actors. They're amazing human beings and they do great things for the world.
Well, those are kind of opposite ends of the spectrum on screen, though. Not that Audrey Hepburn wasn't funny, but Carol Burnett was known for just joking all the time, that they never got a serious take from her. So I think it's very interesting that those are your two kind of influences. Do you ever try, and when you do your voice acting, do you ever try and channel specifically something from one of them, or do you use Audrey Hepburn and Carol Burnett for inspiration in voice acting, or is it just something totally different?
I mean, I think I just really love them as actors and I like their work. But when I did, the audition process was pretty interesting for Dragon Ball Z, and then when I got cast by Barry Watson, who was the original producer on that show. And he wanted me to have the waterfall laughter and all of the whoa stuff that Bulma does is inspired by, Carol Burnett and her, her silly waterfall lilts and things that she does with her voice. So
did you compare the original Japanese take? You just did your own?
I didn't. I mean, only in the video games, really, and that was mostly for timing. But when I went in, and I went straight to a callback because I ran into Mr. Sabat at a bar one night, and he was like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I failed my math class." And he said, "Oh, well, you should come." People ask me, and they're like, "How did you get into voice acting?" I'm like, "I failed my math class, and I broke into Chris Sabat's house." Those are my two. It's my origin story is pretty awesome. But when I went to go audition, and I didn't know what I was reading for, I called him and he was at the studio and he said, well, I would love to show you a clip of everything. However, they're in my office at my house, and but you can go break in because I'm sure the window's open. And I'm like, okay, let me go break into Chris's house. And I crawled through the window. In the top left-hand corner, there was a VHS tape, which I always love to pause for the kids to look at me and go, what's a VHS tape?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Do you know what it stands for?
I have no idea what VHS stands for.
Video. No.
I don't either. I think that's lost to time, frankly.
Colton,
VHS.
Look it up.
Yeah, Colton, what does VHS stand for?
Work around there. VHS. So anyway, I got this tape and I listened to it one time, and it was for like 7 different voices, and I think it was probably the original Canadian dub. And so their stuff got recorded up to a point, and then it never got released. Really, I don't think they released any of them, or if it did, it was like straight. I don't really know all the details. Don't get me lying. But I heard all of them once, so it kind of had a general idea. And but when I look at a character, for me, the process is very different. I imagine in my mind what that character would sound like, mostly by the way that they look and their features and a description of who they are for me. And then I kind of get that in my head, and it's almost like channeling the voice or something, because I really, after I did my audition, and I thought I wanted to be Chi-Chi, because I just looked at like who everybody was, and I saw that Chi-Chi was the main character's wife. And I thought, well, if he gets a lot of airtime, she's definitely got to get a lot of airtime, not knowing anything about the show.
Right.
And then when I got Bulma, I was like, okay, well, we'll see how this goes. And I walk into the studio and we're on Planet Namek and it's exploding. And I'm like, well, that was a great voiceover career. I thought I died. So I had no idea that she was a big deal.
That is very interesting, the process of creating a character's voice when you don't have, original source material. Like everyone can do a version of Christopher Walken or Trump or any of the political leaders. You can do an impersonation of them. But how do you approach, for instance, Mark Hamill comes to mind doing the Joker. That before him, there may be some I'm not thinking of, but it was probably, I think it was George Romero was the original in the TV show.
Okay.
He does a very different version. It's a very different character that he came up with, and now it's the standard. You know, so you did that with Bulma. It's a very, your creation with Bulma is very, very iconic. I think it would be safe to say. And I know there's Ava, I believe is her name, is doing it after you had retired from the role. She's doing it now. Is that correct?
No, it is Monica Rial.
Okay, I got that totally wrong.
That's okay. Ava, Monica, it's close. There's some letters there that could go both.
Yeah, so they replaced. I wish I could have said I retired. I don't know how that got on my wiki page, but it did. I think I maybe said that tongue in cheek. It was like, yeah, man, I'm retired from Funimation because I was living in New Orleans and I didn't want to say, oh, I got replaced. But truth of the matter is they replaced a bunch of us for the Kai series, which this may not be a favorable thing to say about it. But I figure in my mind, it was a smart business move because if you're going to do a watered down version of the original, you might as well bring somebody with a following already to kind of be like, hey, fans, come check out my new voice on this show kind of deal. That may be my complete imagination, but it would be a smart business move, I think. And Bulma wasn't as big of a character in that show. And, Dragon Ball through GT, I played her from the age of 16 to the age of 50 something. And believe it or not, they really do want to cast you, especially some of the more difficult and the larger roles. They want to cast you more like your type, like your voice type. And for consistency, for one thing, but also, it's easier to, get your voice a little deeper as you get older than it is to go back and, try to be 16-year-old little Bulma,
Well,
They want to wear you out, even though they totally wore us out.
is that why they tend to cast women in roles?
Boy voices?
Yeah.
Yeah, man, because boy voices are like real easy to do for us. I mean, that's no big deal. Yeah, I mean, I do boy voices all day long.
Whereas for like Adventure Time, we heard Finn, clearly getting older.
Oh yeah, no doubt. And the same thing.
He's fantastic. I don't remember his name off the top of my head, but
and the same thing happens when they cast like kids, right? So there was a vehicle that Pendleton Ward had called The Bravest Warriors. And his son played a little creature named Catbug, but he could only do it for like 2 seasons because after that, like his voice isn't cute anymore. Like now he's 5 and he's making complete sentences. So when you approach a character that did you know at the beginning, what the popularity of Dragon Ball Z was going to be? Did you have any idea what you were signing up for?
Oh no!
Because I failed math. I'll take it.
Yeah, I was gonna move to LA. Like I'd given up the house that I lived. Like I didn't have a place to live anymore. And because I was on scholarship, I took math my final semester in school. And sure enough, and man, I was really trying with that. He was an adjunct faculty teacher. He taught like upper level math classes all day long, and he had this one 5-hour math class that kids were just trying to take to graduate. And I hadn't reciprocated a fraction in over a decade. And he's, I mean, poor guy. He would be like, so we're going to reciprocate fractions. I'm assuming you all know how to do that. And I'm like, and I kid you not, the guy broke more pieces of chalk trying to explain the questions that he must have gone through a box tonight. Just being so put out with me for having to explain what should have been elementary math.
Yeah.
And he did not care that I was going to be a voice actor and didn't want to have to know math for anything. And, I got a big I even drew him in a Santa suit with a knapsack over his back and the letter D sticking out, and wrote like, all I want for Christmas is a big fat D. And that he was not charmed by me at all. Maybe one of the few people in my life that I've not been able to charm the pants off of, and he was not pants, but what I mean.
Yeah, we gotcha.
Figurative pants,
right?
Wasn't able to charm him into giving me just that little oomph to get out of. But hey, it created a career for me. So
yeah, no kidding.
Have you needed to reciprocate a fraction since then?
No.
Me either.
No, I'm not.
I have a phone that pretty much does it all, or Excel.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So you get into Vollmer. You said you didn't know exactly like what it was going to be like as Dragon Ball Z is increasing in popularity stateside and obviously like around the world. You have become a voice acting icon, even though you kind of fell into it. There's a lot of people that imitate what you do in the show, and you've inspired the voices for several other characters on other shows. And as you look back at where you started and what you were doing, how did you create this character and allow her to age and kind of become her own? Because she did become like the primary female character in Dragon Ball Z.
Yeah, she was. I think a lot of it had to do with Barry. He was he had a very distinct idea, and he read me for 7 of the characters, and he really challenged me in my audition to see if I could take direction. And I remember him coming out of the booth after I had done my audition, and he shook my hand and he said, "You're a very talented actress. I could see you in any of these roles. You did a fantastic job." And I'm thinking, don't give up on your dreams, kid. Don't call us. We'll call you.
Yeah.
And so in the booth with him, and like, I just kept thinking of her as this really naive, yet genius.
Yeah.
So I try to just keep her, cute and bubbly, and then realizing, oh, she's pretty smart. I think voice acting is different than any other type of acting, mainly because, when you're in a play, you live in that character for 2 hours.
Right.
We were that character all day, every day, for 2 hours. Every motion is that character. In voice acting, you're very reliant on the director. I didn't read a script before I walked in the door. It was all cold reads, and it was really depending on the director to tell you what's happening in the scene, and then you just go. Like there's no let me hear what they have sound like. You're just beep beep beep, hit the line. If you need an inflection somewhere else, then they will talk to you like you're a musician and tell you where you need to crescendo or, back off or shorten this, this part. It's very technical in a way. It's just a very different muscle.
So it was all cold reads?
It was all cold reads. That is correct.
That's stunning to me to think about that. Because, I mean, if you were to take an actor that was, especially if it's a stage actor or even a screen actor, and give them a script and say, here you go, like it was improv, there are very few people that would be able to pull that off. And you did the entire series of Dragon Ball Z as cold reads. Mm-hmm. That seems like it would even be more difficult to develop a character when it is all cold reads and you don't know, you don't have all those other interactions.
Let me put my scholastic hat on now.
Come on with it.
Your body is an instrument, right? So it becomes muscle memory. It becomes just natural.
Well, speaking of the body being muscle memory, what kind of, because I've seen a lot of videos of voice actors getting into roles and they're not sitting there reading it straight. They're, if they're getting in a dark moment, they get real crunched up. And did you find yourself into any of those situations? Oh, sure. I mean, I always tell my students too, I'm like, when you're voice acting, you're acting from the tip of your toes to the hair on top, last hair on your head. It is your entire body. That's why, I teach voice and movement this semester. And so I do a lot of exercises where they can't use their voice, can't use their face, and it's just all physical. And then I also teach them, how to, public speaking is very different than being in a voice. But for example, there's no crying pretty in anime. You don't go,
right.
It is, it's just a different set of muscles and it's a different technique. Completely.
Yeah, you just mentioned your students, and you did mention from a scholastic point. Now, you teach at Media Tech Institute.
Segue.
Yeah, you teach at Media Tech Institute, which we're familiar with. We recorded some stuff there. We know each other from playing in a band, and
which back then it was called Dallas Sound Labs.
Well, Sound Labs was the studio in which Media Tech met.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, for some of their stuff.
Well, actually, Dallas Sound Lab was there, and the owner of Dallas Sound Lab, Russell Whitaker, started Media Tech because he was doing workshops at the Dallas Sound Lab, and he realized that students were coming out of four-year colleges and they didn't know how to use the equipment. And then he opened the school that was called Media Tech, and then 10 years after that, this was like 22 years ago, 10 years after that, they added the digital film, and then since then they've offered animation, mobile app, web design, and After Effects. And then this past year, I'm the author of the Acting for Media program and the Master Makeup Artistry program.
Okay, so you've got a ton of stuff
that we haven't
even scratched the surface of.
Scratch the surface.
So how do you translate your craft to your students? Like, one of the things that, Jack Black makes the joke in School of Rock is that those that can't do teach. But part of the reason that is because there's so many. Well, and those that can't teach Jim.
Yeah.
But there are so many incredible, talented people out there that do not know how to communicate what makes them good. Famously, if you were to look at baseball, Ted Williams, the guy who had the greatest batting average of all time, batted over 400, just whenever he was hired as a hitting coach and whenever he managed the Texas Rangers, people were like, all right, how do I hit? And he's like, you just put the bat on the ball. Yeah. Like, well, there has to be more to it than that.
You just get the home run, and then
how
you get
how
paid.
Are you able to communicate, being so talented? How are you able to communicate that to your students, and where do you start them out at?
I start them out at the basic fundamentals. I start them out with breathing exercises. I start them out with relaxation techniques. I think a lot of what people, it's tough. I mean, there are gifted people.
Sure.
And then there are people that can study and try really, 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 really hard. And they get an A for effort. And a lot of times they may get work because they play the game better than some of the more talented people. They may, I've got one student that's amazing if she could just show up on time. You know what I mean? Like super talented, but there's just different elements. So I try to teach them the fundamentals. I try to teach them how to not hurt themselves, first and foremost. Preparing the voice, preparing the body before you get into these exercises and whatnot, or situations where you will be acting. And then I try to teach them confidence is a lot of it, right? Like, you've got to learn what keeps you from, where you got to learn where your boundaries are. You got to learn what you're good at, how you're going to be cast. You're going to learn, some simple things, but it's also making them feel comfortable in their environment. A lot of people have great voices. I'll walk up to them at conventions and they'll be like, "Hey, I'm Kermit the Frog," or like they'll give me some great, and they'll have this really great, like deep, vocal fry, and then it's like, oh, wow, cool. But if you get them in front of a microphone with a sound engineer and a director, they are going to go up. Like they're going to just be like stunned and they're not going to know what to do with themselves. Right. Yeah. So getting people comfortable in their environment, in front of the camera, on stage, making sure that they feel confident. A lot of times that really helps. I see leaps and bounds. I had a student my first semester teaching. She came in and she was extremely closed off and she was just really shy. And we started doing, some typical theater games and exercises like the raisin and the lion, stretching your face and getting really small and getting really big. And I'll tell you what, man, 2 weeks later, she'd gotten a promotion at work and she walked around with her chin lifted up and a smile on her face. And, that's hard to teach, but to see that in somebody, just that confidence is really, you can't be timid in this industry. You cannot.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of I find acting very narcissistic, that's probably why I do more voice work or live theater or just performing in general than I ever do on camera, because I think, man, they've got to really think they're really good to be on that camera and be able to look at themselves perform after that. And that's why a lot of film actors don't actually watch themselves, because it's uncomfortable, seeing yourself vulnerable and in a position that, you're not used to looking at yourself in the mirror like that.
No, and even something as innocuous as what we're doing with this podcast, like going back and having to do the editing and like seeing, stuff in HD. It's so bizarre, I had several episodes ago, and you guys can go check this out if you want to. I had one of my head hairs that was hanging from my beard, and as I was editing the episode, I'm just watching it go back and forth. I'm like, oh my gosh, what a complete idiot! Like the entire time, but I had no way of knowing, And there's so much of what you're talking about that there is a certain amount of confidence and stuff that you have to do with being on the camera, or just not watch it afterwards and just forget that ever happened.
There is something to be said for that. In fact, I have kind of the opposite approach. Sometimes I'll, not necessarily watching, but listening back, I'll go, ooh, I got a good voice. In fact, we just did.
I don't have that problem
at my work. We just did a shoot for new hires.
Okay.
And me and a bunch of the leadership team did the takes. Mine was 7 minutes, and everyone shooting was like, that was perfect. It was so good. And everyone else had listened to mine. I should have gone last because everyone else went 30 minutes and they wanted to redo it. So the confidence thing is a big part. Because I was like, oh yeah,
If you're comfortable doing what you do, then I mean, I may not be right for the part, but I'm gonna be me and do it because I know how. And then if I, like that's just kind of how it goes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you do makeup as well.
Yes.
So not only are you on the stage with the other actors when you're doing theater stuff, that's where you cut your teeth was kind of in music, and that you're doing this incredible voice acting, and now you do makeup. So basically we just need to hire you, and then you can take all these positions.
Do all the things.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
It's very true. I worked with right out of college. In fact, even with Funimation, my first feature film that I ever did out of college was the Chuck E. Cheese Galaxy 5000 movie, which was a feature film.
What?
We shot it all on a green screen, and I was the key makeup artist and the designer for that.
Okay, there was a Chuck E. Cheese movie?
Yeah, Galaxy 5000 live action movie.
Oh my gosh.
Did the Bowling for Soup guy do the voice?
No, but I knew those guys in college. I knew
Jared and all of those guys.
Yeah, well, because they lived a street over from me. I lived on Fry Street, and I think they lived on Bryan or on Scripture. They had their tour bus was always there. Yeah, I've known those guys for a long time. I used to work at Cool Beans, and Eric, he's little bobblehead for Bowling for Soup has Cool Beans T-shirt on. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
That's awesome.
And we both kind of got famous at the same time. So remember Corey giving me like their VHS tape and like a sticker and a T-shirt or something, and I gave him a Bulma action figure, and so we go way back.
That's a cool piece of history.
That's pretty
Colton,
awesome.
did we find out what VHS stands for?
Yes.
He's shaking his head.
Yeah. What do you got?
Video home system.
Video home system.
It's underwhelming.
Yeah, completely.
I thought it would be technical.
So underwhelming.
not as
I
interesting
have
as
to
I wanted.
agree with you 1,000%. I wanted
That's so
some
sad.
word that was going to be difficult to pronounce,
Yes.
and it didn't get my wish.
So you said you done makeup on the Chuck E. Cheese stuff. That was something you did like right out of college. Where does that fit into like your schedule, or I guess really when you're ranking the things that you love to do?
I do so many things. There's just no time. My schedule doesn't have anything to do with all the things I do. It has
There you
nothing
go.
to do with it.
So what do you like more? Do you
but
like the makeup or the voice acting stuff more?
I love both equally. They're just so dear to me. My mother was a folk artist when I was growing up.
Okay.
She would sit and paint for hours and hours and hours. Sometimes she would paint the same chicken, little wooden figure thing, like over and over and over. And I would base coat and I would watch her, and I just thought she was amazing. And so I learned to paint from that. And then when I started getting roles, I did a lot of musical theater growing up in high school and college. I was always like the character actress, I was always like, the one with the crazy makeup, or the old lady, and I just, and so my art background transferred very well into theater. I did scene painting, and I like anything from really large to like really small, and I just started designing shows, and doing makeup as part of theater, as part of production. In fact, my degree at North Texas, the girl that mentored me is a big Hollywood makeup artist now, Vanessa Dion, and she was really great with hair, and she was a good painter as well. She designed all the operas and all the theater. And then and she was like my big sister, when you get into a theater department, they're like, hey, this the senior's going to help you not get lost while you're in college.
Right.
And so I just started working with her in the makeup shop, and she was like, you're really good at makeup. Like you're really, really, really good at it.
Thanks.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to be the lead in this play, but I'm also going to be the makeup designer. Which is funny because it's bitten me in the butt a couple of times. I was in a show called Arms and the Man. It's a George Bernard Shaw play, and I was the supporting female lead. And my daughter, who was the ingenue in the play, comes out, and her hairpiece is sitting sideways. And in my mind, I'm trying so hard not to go up on my lines, but I'm also thinking, who backstage is not paying attention and who's going to get their shoot out when I get off stage after I deliver these lines that I better not forget, or somebody's going to be in big trouble. And but it for me, it goes hand in hand, and I love different aspects of it very much. So it's a great gift to give when you have friends that are getting married, because I do makeup for all their weddings. And I've worked on I've worked on 4 weddings, a TV show for TLC, and I've done tons of movies, and I like both. I'm very ADD,
right?
If you can't tell yet, but
which TV show on TLC?
4 weddings.
Oh, okay. I thought you said there were 4
it's a
weddings.
Competition show where they have 4 brides, so I have to do their hair and makeup like they had it for their wedding, and then I have to create another look for them for the show for some other stuff that they do.
My wife loves that show. Did you do it for multiple episodes?
I did for several of the Dallas whenever they filmed at the Arboretum here.
My wife loves that show. Mm-hmm. She just loves TLC in general, but
yeah. And I learned I had a very strict teacher in college. It was my mentor, Barbara Cox, and she was the costume designer. And if she didn't like a wig, she'd just brush it out and tell me to start over.
Oh no.
But she was also very complimentary. But I remember graduating and her saying to me, well, you're very good at acting, you're a very talented actress, and you're very good at makeup, and you're a great designer, but someday you're going to have to choose. And I didn't, and I do both. And I have done the department chair for 2 programs in acting and makeup.
Yeah,
so,
it sounds like not choosing worked out really well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it did. I have a bracelet that says "Prove them wrong," and I think it comes. And I wasn't intentionally trying to be like, I'm gonna show you, lady. I just did what felt good at the time, and this is where I ended up. So,
well, that's great. Well, and now you had mentioned that this year you're the president of Women in Film, the Dallas chapter.
Yes, I am. It's my Empowered Women Empower Women.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yep.
We just wrapped up our Topaz Film Festival this year, which was very exciting. It's a cause that I feel very passionate about. The entertainment industry is predominantly male, and we're looking to change that. And giving women the tools that they need to go out into the world and be able to navigate and be as good as the men on set. We did a thing this year called the Best Gals Workshop. Best boy on a set is the guy that moves all the furniture and tells people where to put things and hangs the lights and does all that stuff. And we had a woman come to us named Jessica Strajewski, and Jessica Jastrebski. And she was a breast cancer survivor, and as she's laying there recovering, she's like, I'm never going to do a job I don't ever want to do again, and I only want to do is make movies. And she worked her way up from an office PA, and then wanted to know why all the guys got all the fun moving the lights and making the silk screens and hanging stuff. And she decided that she was going to do that too. If she could beat cancer, that she could play with the guys. And she does. She's one of the very few union grip electrics in Texas. Wow. And, when we put the workshop on, it wasn't just to encourage women to become grip electrics, because a lot of us don't want to do that.
Yeah.
But for a producer, for a line producer, for a script supervisor, for an AD, you have to know how long it takes to put that stuff up. And you've got to know, how long it takes to put up a 20 by 20 silk screen. How much of your day is that going to eat up when you're making the schedule for the day, right? How much money is it going to cost? How much does all this equipment cost? So it was just a really great opportunity we want women to be on the same playing field, right? Mm-hmm. We want them to have the same tools as men have with their, learning and, putting up C-stands and hanging lights and all that stuff. So it's just one of the things that we do in order to empower women, and also the fight against sexism. There's so much that's been happening, with the Harvey Weinstein and Epstein and all the Steens. I don't know. um, just we have intimacy coaches now, so that women don't have to feel uncomfortable or pressured when they're doing sex scenes in front of at times back in the day an all-male film crew.
Yeah.
So there's just been a lot of progress, and I'm honored to be I was asked to run for president by the former president, who'd been the president for 3 years, and I'm honored to be able to run this organization of 30. We were 1985. I don't do math. Remember, I failed my math class.
Yeah, no,
So,
that's all right.
But since 1985, to be at the helm of such a important organization for our community is pretty exciting.
So
we know how long that is.
Yeah, we were born in 1985. Yeah, so we're right there.
It was 36 years.
Yeah. So I'm curious, as the president of an organization like this, where you're advocating for change within a very I guess it's a very prevalent market because everybody knows about film and everybody knows about cinema, but it's also a very niche market because there's only so many people who can be a part of it and that have the skills and the talent.
Jobs, right?
Yeah, there's only so many jobs, but there's also a threshold of skill and talent and all this. I'm saying that to kind of frame the question. One of the things that's so difficult for coaches in particular, or people that lead organizations like what you're doing, is you've got a lot of players that are constantly in competition with one another, but there are so many spots. And so for a coach, there's room for everybody. And competition is healthy competition. And it used to be that way. Mm-hmm. It's not so much anymore, especially with women. When I was growing up and I was out of college, I was very intimidated by women in film because I thought you had to have a certain amount of credits or you had to be a producer, like this completely unachievable ranking of being in the industry in order to join and be a member with that. And I know that that's one of the perceptions that I'm constantly fighting against. Yeah, and that's what I wanted to get at. Yeah,
we do a PSA each year that we give back to the community, and we dedicate our time, and this is a gift that we give to our community. It may be an organization. Last year we did the Promise House, which was a home for children that had struggles and that needed a place to grow and learn and live. And we always put somebody in charge, like the producer, but then they have somebody that wants to become a producer work with them, so that everyone's getting that education of on-set experience, and also gives them credit so that when they do go out and try to get that job, they've actually worked on a live set before. And Dallas is full of work. I mean, you may not be making movies, but the TV shows are long ever. I mean, it got competitive for a minute when Walker, Texas Ranger came to an end, and all of those people were back out in the industry looking for freelance work. It got a little hectic, but there are like so many TV shows going on right now. We've got films that are still coming. The indie scene in Dallas and North Texas is huge. So there's work for everybody. It just depends on if you want to, if you can afford a steady paycheck or not. I mean, we were making fun of like the Jack Black and the teaching thing. I didn't start teaching because I wasn't good or able to get jobs. I started teaching because, prove them wrong again, I was told I could never have children, and at 41 I got pregnant. Now I'm 48 with a 6-year-old. So for me, freelancing is not, and that's the thing about women. And that's one of the things that we train in women in film is your career's going to ebb and flow. There's going to be time for you to go out and have your children and raise them and be a good parent. And the industry is not going anywhere. Industry is still going to be there when at whatever capacity, when you're ready to go back. And so, although I am still constantly working in film, I just finished producing a short film last month. For me, steady income and a little bit more stability is what I need in order to raise my child at this point.
Well, congrats on overcoming that, because I know that's a big challenge.
We
You
weren't trying. It was
yeah.
a big surprise.
Oh, well, that's even better.
Yeah, but that's an awesome surprise.
So you didn't spend tens of thousands of dollars trying to figure that out.
No, I did not.
I'm here.
I was gonna be the cool aunt for the rest of my life and have a brain aneurysm at a music festival in my early 70s. And now I have to live forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, now you do have to live forever.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you've been working on some stuff here recently. You were talking to us in the pre-interview about this stranger. Tell us a little bit about that project.
This is a project that is so near and dear to my heart, mainly because the first film that I produced, and this actually goes back to the Dallas Sound Lab. So before there was a digital film program, my business partner, Tracy Terrell Doyle, who was a film producer and she worked at AMS for a long time, her and I met on the set of Missy Elliott, and we were just production assistants. And I mean, Missy Elliott Project auditions for reality television.
Okay.
It was at a fancy hotel downtown, and I'll never forget that there was a metal detector, and people were like, literally, they think they're going to meet Missy, right? And like, get up there if you've got a piece on you. So they're literally like pulling their guns out and handing them to friends to put in the car so they can get through the metal detector. And me and Tracy were like, this is utter chaos. Like, who's running the show around here? And we'd never met. So we kind of just started working in tandem and like getting some order in the court, like making sure that people were in the right lines and that everybody filled out their paperwork and that there was some type of, and at the very end we were like, that girl, I'm going to work with you. Oh yeah, we're going to move mountains together. And we have for 20 some odd years now moved mountains together. So we had our first production office at the Dallas Sound Lab. And we did our first film together, which was called Placebo. It won a double showing at AFI, the AFI Film Festival, which is now DIF, Dallas International Film Festival. And we worked together for years. I mean, like, we worked on the same TV show, and they didn't even know that we were two different people. Like, we just, business partners, just did it all. And when she opened the digital film school at MediaTek and became the vice president is when I was replaced on Dragon Ball Z. And that's when I decided to move to New Orleans. And I lived there for 8 years, which is where I met my husband. And that's where I also had my baby. Living in New Orleans was great. I made movies every year. I sang in a cabaret. I was in a dance company for a minute. I did makeup for royalty for all the big Mardi Gras balls. It was just so much fun. And then when I had this baby, it was like, I got to get off the merry-go-round.
Yeah.
I got to quit the circus. Dang it. And so I called her at MediaTek and I said, look, I'll scrub your toilets, but I need to be back where my parents are. My kid needs some grandparents, and I'll do whatever. And she was like, no, this is perfect. This is such a God thing. Like, you need to come back here. And before I even decided to move back, she's like, well, I need you to write the Acting for Media program. And then I want you to write a master makeup artistry program. And it just, the Lord put me where I needed to be when I needed to be there. And I got a new baby, a new life, and a new job. And, it was just supposed to be.
That's so awesome.
So that film Placebo, we did with Ohm Films, which is Niraj Bhatia and Dan Burke. Dan Burke's out of Los Angeles. And 15 years later, they came to us and said, hey, we want to make another movie. And so last month, for the last 4 months, I've been doing pre-production and putting our crew together, and we made a movie, and it's really great. It's kind of it's like an Agatha Christie of the South. It's kind of a whodunit. It was starred James Tupper, who is best known for Man in Tree, which is apparently a TV show. I don't know. He's done a ton of Lifetime movies. I remember sitting watching the monitor and thinking, this is like we're watching a real actor on television. And it was like, well, yeah, because
You
that
are.
guy, that's
Yeah.
kind of what that guy does.
Well, I think it's fantastic with WIF. The opportunity of being involved with Dallas Sound Labs has actually helped a couple of our friends, Colton being one of them.
Yeah, another one of our friends is he's a director of media at another church across town. Both
and
of
Wes,
us.
remember Wes back in the day?
Yeah.
So actually, a lot of friends.
Yeah,
have been there. And, and learned and gone
we wouldn't have been able to afford cutting our albums if it wasn't for recording with our friends who had to do stuff for projects. Also, we wouldn't have been forced to do some of the creative stuff that we did, where they were like, "No, you can't do. I've already recorded all the rock songs that I can. I need you to record on a funk song." And I'm like, "I don't know how to play funk. I figure it out." So
3, 2.
you're the only bass player I know. I need you to learn how to play funk by next week because I'm 2 weeks behind on this, recording. So it's been a huge part of our development and the development and stuff of our friends. So I think that what you're doing at MediaTek is just incredible.
Yeah. I keep saying Dallas Sound Labs. That's what it was for.
Right.
15, 20 years.
Yeah, but that's
for me.
It's so awesome what you're getting to do, and not just what you're doing with WIF, but you're actually putting a lot of those things into practice, where you are, mentoring and empowering, and then promoting, these students into getting those positions, and getting to be a part of that industry and really realizing some of their dreams, and others maybe like us that we didn't realize our dreams, but that becomes a very formative part of who we will be from here on out. So
Sure. I mean, I think, when I was saying earlier about, actors are such narcissists sometimes, for me, and this was something I learned from my sister who passed in 2007. She was the type of person that anytime she walked into a room, she brought joy. It was as if God was whispering into her ear, your job is to bring joy.
That's what I do.
And somebody had, the woman that gave her eulogy had said that. And so I took that on as a really great thing to live by. That's a great way to live, is to bring joy to people. And so it allows me to be an actor and an entertainer because I feel that that's bringing joy. And if that gets to be my job, it would be selfish of me not to be grateful and to give back. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very cool.
Well, we thank you so much for your time. We end all of our interviews, though, with a quick segment that we call Controlled Rowdiness. And since we know that you have experience as an actress and a voice actress, we think you're going to be awesome at this. What Controlled Rowdiness is, we're going to just send you off some rapid-fire questions. There are no right answers, but there are several wrong answers, so just be careful that you don't step on any of those landmines. And if you're willing to play along, Danley, why don't you get us started?
Sure. What current project would you love to be a part of if you could, whether it's a video game that's being made or a current running cartoon? What if there's anything you could go, I want to be that character?
I would totally go back to Dragon Ball Super.
Cool.
That'd be
awesome. Not really an option for me now, but I would totally do that. I am working on a project right now that I'm really super excited about. So
cool.
Okay, can we talk about it, or is this like a no?
Yeah, I mean, I can give you a little bit. One of the producers that I worked with on The Stranger out of LA, he's our post-production supervisor. He did a little thing over COVID where, we couldn't use people. So he used a friend of his dog. And it's the story of this dog. It's called Wild and Free, or Born Free, or Born Wild and Free, something along the lines. It's a working title,
Right.
And it's just the journey of this dog during COVID and watching the TV and seeing how sad life is. And then she gets fired from her job. And then her boyfriend is like, hey, babe, I'm hanging out with this other husky during quarantine.
No.
And then, she just decides to pack it all up and go to the desert and run free. And it's very poetic and it's very beautiful. And there are tons of people that are touching this project. And it's not something that we're like trying to release for any type of compensation or anything. We just want to make people happy.
Yeah.
Everybody involved in the project is just wanting to bring joy. And there are some really amazing musicians attached to it. And it's all being mixed down at Skywalker Ranch. And
oh, very cool.
Yeah, the score is original. And it's just everything has been so serendipitous and coming together. And I think I'm gonna, hit up with some of my Funimation friends to do some of the other voices. I think, spoiler alert, I don't know. Cynthia Crayons plays the voice of Mrs. Briefs, and I'm hoping that she'll come in and play the voice of my mom.
Oh,
as I
that'd be
am the
awesome.
voice of this dog named Ghost that decides to pack it all up and go be free and not worry about the boyfriend and the job and the cute boy that moved in her mom's neighborhood down the street.
So maybe
That's
get a
cool.
maybe get a DBZ reunion.
A what?
A
A
DBZ.
reunion?
Yeah.
Man, we have a reunion every weekend we go to a convention. I've seen those people enough. We're good.
Okay, so
Speaking.
that's
Yes, I will bring some of the voices back for sure.
Speaking of, so you end up going to, I'm sure, a ton of these conventions. What is the weirdest experience you've ever had at a con?
Having dinner with Chewbacca and R2D2. Peter Mayhew and Kenny Baker, just the three of us.
Really?
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. Like that game, like 10 things are true and one's a lie.
Yeah,
and I
yeah. You always use that.
That's my lie, and it's totally not my lie.
That's insane. Huh. So Peter Mayhew used to live in this area. He was
lived in Granbury. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And
one of my agents, my booking agents, used to rep him.
Okay, awesome. Yeah,
but this was before I didn't know that.
Yeah, we would see him at the grocery store every now and then whenever he would come in, and he was like, not only was the guy super tall, but he was one of the sweetest guys on the planet. My grandmother would take us into the grocery store, and she had no idea. She hated anything that had to do with like sci-fi stuff, and she told us one day, she was like, "Oh, that guy's an actor." And we're like, "What does he do?" She goes, "Oh, he plays some huge dog." And we're like, "Chewbacca?" She was like, "Maybe that's what it is." And so we were so excited. We got to go over there and talk to him, and he just talked to us for a couple of minutes. That's incredible. So you had...
He was really nice to me, but my experience of him being really pleasant was not the case.
Really?
We were having dinner one night at the Sofitel Hotel in Chicago, and the waitress comes up, and I'm newly famous. This is probably like in 99, maybe early 2000.
Okay.
And she's like, we're just so honored to have you. There's no one in the restaurant. There's not one other table. There's not a whole bunch of people running around. It's completely silent. And she's like, but before we get started, I was just wondering if I could get, an autograph for the staff. And of course, I'm like, 3 glasses of champagne in. Of course you can. And Peter is like, absolutely not. We are not at work right now. We would like to be treated like every other patron. And I was mortified. I was just like, oh my goodness. Is this how I'm supposed to act? Because I don't think I can be famous if this is what it looks like. But he was very sweet to me. And Kenny Baker, God rest his soul, I got to talk to him about working with Terry Gilliam in the Time Bandits and working for George Lucas.
We got to see
awesome.
Time Bandits.
All right, I'll watch Time Bandits.
Have you not seen it?
I've never seen it.
We've talked about it. I've seen it. My dad loves it.
Oh my lands. You guys, this is going to be your favorite movie of all time. You're going to be very upset that it took this long.
Well, it would have to usurp Monty Python's Quest for the Holy Grail in order to be my favorite.
It does.
It does.
It's pretty fantastic.
I mean, it's Terry Gilliam.
Have you seen The Adventures of Baron Munchausen?
Yes.
No.
Okay, it's kind of that great.
Okay.
It's along the lines of that great.
Okay.
Yeah. All right.
I'm sold. Time Bandits it is.
Who does the best Batman voice? Kevin Conroy or William Arnett?
Arnett.
No. Yes, I told you Arnett's the best Batman. Yeah.
Arnett is the best Batman.
Oh my gosh.
Hands down.
He's also the best Lego master.
This is true.
Oh my gosh.
This is true. You are stuck on a desert island. You can take any 3 things with you. You have to take a book, a movie, and the last thing that you get to take with you is your best friend. What are the 3 things you take with you? Who's your best friend? What book and what movie are you taking with you?
I mean, is it too cliche to say my husband?
No, I would totally take your husband too. He seems awesome.
No, I mean, I would probably, if not my husband, I would take my best friend Gina.
Okay.
I would take The Secret Garden.
Oh.
And movie, I mean, I would say Friday, but I already have that one memorized.
Sounds like it's Lego Batman.
No. No. What's a movie I can watch over and over? I mean, I love Friday, but that's tough.
But
Yeah.
not
I
Time
don't know.
Bandits doesn't sound like it's in the running after I just heard how great it was.
I mean, I don't know. It's great, but it's, you know.
It's
I
very
don't know.
it's very weird.
I believe
Princess
that.
Bride.
Oh,
Bride is
yeah.
pretty good, too.
Okay.
You can't go wrong with Princess Bride.
No, you can't at all.
Lucas
cannot.
taught me that we did a mastermind, and they asked what your favorite movie was. He's a Princess Bride. And he told me later, like, no one ever says Princess Bride, and it
Yeah, it's
always
perfect.
it
It's
always
the
gets a
perfect
good
movie.
reaction.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
All right. Oh, no, that was my question. Your last one.
I asked Kevin. Oh, you did. Okay.
Mhm. Yeah, come on.
What's your favorite Robert Paulson character?
Robert Paulson.
Yeah, he did Pinky the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I was just curious, but we can skip that.
I met him at where did I meet him? I was working on a reality television film in Los Angeles in the Mojave Desert, and he was on the crew. Was he like a camera guy or something? Like, he does other things besides voice work.
Yeah,
But
he
I would have to
has
say
done
Pinky.
10,000 voices. Like he's done all of them.
Yeah, I would say. I mean, but Pinky's my favorite.
Yeah, Pinky's probably my favorite.
All right. Who at Media Tech Institute, who's been your favorite student of all time?
Wow, that's tough. You know, there have been a couple of students that I didn't necessarily teach, but I would do coaching with them. A lot of the recording art students, you know, they're so in their headphones and they're always mixing music. But when they get on stage, I would have showcases every month and I'd make them perform.
Nice.
And I would say that Cliff or Topic are probably two of my favorite students. Cliff, I think he's a student now and he is going to be a star.
As long as it's not our producer Colton, then
was gonna
we
say,
agree with you. That would be the one wrong answer. Would be Colton. Well, hey, thanks so much for your time tonight, Tiffany. Can you tell our guests where it is that they can find you on social media and where they might be able to find The Stranger whenever it comes out?
Yes. The Stranger will be hitting the tour circuit. I think we are hopefully going to be premiering at South by Southwest this year. And we are submitting to Tribeca Film Festival as well. So We'll see how that goes. I am easy to find, the OGBulma on all of the networks, on all of the socials. The OGBulma, Original Gangsta.
Atta girl. Well, hey, thanks so much for the time tonight. We greatly appreciate it.
You guys are awesome. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Tiffany freaking Vollmer. There's so many other things. There's so many other things we get into that we didn't even scratch the surface on.
There's so much spinach.
Yeah, so much spinach. I do love the Bulma stuff. Like, I grew up watching Dragon Ball Z. It was one of the first animes that we ever got into, and so much of it had to do with the fact that it was the first thing that was cool that we saw in that vein. And early 2000s, we're teenagers, and there is this
so funny,
cartoon.
too.
Yeah, there's a cartoon that's humorous. It's got action in it that's, not Bugs Bunny being chased around by Elmer Fudd. And the character development was really cool.
Names are funny too, because I think with the translation from Japanese to English, they're very funny names. One character's name is Bikini.
Yep.
I believe Bulma's son is Trunks, and then I believe his brother's Pants or something. I'm trying to find it.
They're all really bizarre names.
No, it's just Trunks.
Just Trunks.
But
yeah,
Pants.
It's wild to see how that transition was made. The character development in that show, as well as the different iterations of it, have been one of those things, though, that allowed, it was kind of like everybody's gateway drug into anime. Mm-hmm. And Tiffany's voice has become iconic and synonymous with anime. And to hear that, she started off as a UNT student just up the road. And now
failing math.
Yeah, failing math, and now is one of the most iconic, voice actors.
Hey, you want to break into my house and listen to something?
Yeah, one of the most iconic voice actors of our time. And now, not only that, but now she's teaching, the next generation, the stuff that she's doing with women in film. It's
very cool.
It's an incredible career that she's kind of carved out, and she's still really young and has a ton of time in this industry to be able to do whatever she wants to. And her daughter is going to be completely spoiled when it comes to getting her makeup done because, that's
Plus,
just what her
she's
mom
probably
does.
never going to get told to turn off those dang cartoons.
That's probably true.
They're going to be running all the time. I'm not saying she's Dragon Ball Z, but
sure, she's
in the industry, and I'm assuming she probably wants her daughter to be exposed to that stuff. And also, cartoons are awesome.
Yeah. And
although I do disagree, the best Batman voice is clearly Kevin Conroy.
Arnett. And I think it's good that she knows, and that we've now had.
I got to say that put a nail. Not the final nail, but a nail into the coffin, into the argument of who's better. When a professional voice actor says Will Arnett,
we've had.
To be fair, it wasn't who's better; it was who's your favorite.
We've had 3.
Because Kevin Conroy's better.
We've had 3 people who are experts in their field disagree with you and agree with me.
No,
Stephen Kent and David Jesse both said The Last Jedi was one of the best Star Wars movies.
Oh, I thought it was about Batman. I don't care about that.
And Tiffany Vollmer just said that Lego Batman's better.
That was a blow. I'm not going to lie. That was a blow.
Yeah, I really want to get into...
I thought it was a shoe-in. She was, clearly, Kevin Conroy. Iconic. He's done the voice of Batman for 30 years, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
He's clearly the one. Will Arnett has done 2 films, a video game.
3 films.
He's funny.
Because... Lego
it's
movie,
a funny characterization
Lego movie 2,
of Batman, but it's not the Batman.
No, it's not the Batman. That's Robert Pattinson.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying.
Anyway, Tiffany, thanks so much for being on the show. There's a lot of stuff that we could have gotten into. Make sure that you check out her movie, The Stranger, which will be making its rounds. It'll be in South by Southwest here coming up. So make sure that if you are down there in Austin, that you go show it some love, give it some support, as well as potentially the Tribeca Film Festival, which would be pretty amazing.
And if you're looking for a place to learn the tricks of the trade, there's Dallas Sound Labs and MediaTek,
which is now just MediaTek Institute. I thought MediaTek Institute. So she does voice and she does makeup. So if you really want to learn from one of the pros that's been there, that's done it, and is an icon in the industry in both of these areas, Tiffany's your gal, and she's teaching right here in DFW. So make sure that you check it out. Learn from one of the best.
You brought that home, but it was my idea. Okay, bye.
Okay. Y'all have good give. We'll see y'all next week.
This is Tiffany Vollmer, and this is why you should never listen to the Reverend and Reprobate. Hi, this is Bulma from Dragon Ball Z, and Dragon Ball GT. And this is why you don't listen to the Reverend and Reprobate.